The Awakened Hardest Podcast with John White.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Awakened Hardest Podcast. I am the Awakened Hardest, John White. I want to start off today's episode. Well, first of all, if you hear my son in the background, or it sounds like someone is screaming like a maniac, it's my son. There's some kind of situation happening downstairs in the gaming room. Sounds pretty serious. I'm going to stay out of it. Over the past 2 weeks, I have really struggled to write this episode. It's felt like the door to my intuition has been closed, or was closed. Now, part of this might be timing. I realized I have had an imbalance, a slight imbalance, but apparently an important one. It's funny because I've been content overall. I've been fulfilled in most areas of my life, not really feeling any huge imbalance. There was a situation I needed to clear up, took care of that. Still felt blocked though, like something was holding that door closed. Then today, after a very productive day, I realized the gardening and yard work part of me really was a part of that block. It had something to do with it. Now I'll get back to the gardening and yard work thing in a minute. Now, typically my podcasts are written intuitively. And like I said, lately that intuitive door has been closed. Now, this definitely happens from time to time. I can feel like I'm in balance. I'm giving attention to, or I have given attention to all of my different parts. And then I usually just assume that it's something is going on within the universe. Something is just off. But today, after 2 days of very productive yard work, garden work, it was like, bam, the door was wide open. So what I learned is I need to check in whenever I feel stuck, whenever I'm in this place of, it's like my creative muscles are stuck in tar. When that happens, I need to check in to make sure all the parts are given attention. And for me, sometimes anxiety can be a good indicator of something being not balanced. But in this case, it was physical work. I needed to get outside and do some hard physical labor. I had gotten the chainsaw out, chopped down a couple small trees. I worked up a sweat. I released any of the anxiety that I had. But that part of me, I don't typically pay attention to because it's not fun like sitting down and being creative or being social like those parts are. So I had neglected it. During the summertime, I'm outside working a lot. In the spring, the fall, I'm outside quite a bit. And with the winter months, obviously, I haven't been outside much. And it made me realize just how important it is to get outside and work hard, because with that hard work, when I stepped back, I was pretty excited. I felt accomplished. I had accomplished something I'd been wanting to do for a couple months, clearing up a space in my backyard and getting some plants planted out there. I started the hardening process for the seedlings that I had started inside. And I got a new little setup I'm excited about experiencing this summer. So that hard work gave me the accomplishment, the sense of accomplishment. And it was something that I had been missing. I hadn't done anything I was really proud of in a while, like physically. And this unlocked that intuitive door that had been closed And now I feel like a river of intuition is flowing through that door. I mean, it's just the ideas and the thoughts are just pouring. They're pouring through. It makes me think about over the winter months when I sit and I'm not as physically active as I am in the summertime, where I'm sweating, I'm working hard. It's like a workout, an all-day workout. And at the end of the day, my body feels so good. I don't tend to have a lot of anxiety. It's like that anxiety comes from a buildup of energy, unhealthy energy inside the body, and in some way that masks the intuitive part for me, at least. It forms some kind of barrier that the intuition doesn't flow like it normally does. It like has to go through this medium of anxiety. I don't know. It's the first time I've ever really thought of it that way. It's interesting. But I definitely feel I figured it out. You know, it's nice to be able to have figured out something that I struggled with for a couple of weeks, and it turned into this big lesson that now I know what to look for. The next time I'm having one of these creative blocks, I need to pay attention to all of the different parts and make sure that I have a good balance across the board, and that maybe I don't have any anxiety build up a little bit that's kind of masking, forming some kind of barrier for the intuition to flow in. And for me, a lot of times the release of that anxiety, one of the best ways for me to release it is through hard work, exercise, physically getting up and doing things. It's not like I'm a person that lays around and doesn't do anything. I'm talking about like real physical hard labor where I'm sweating. My muscles are feeling it at the end of the day. Now, moving along, timing is also important. I've been between a couple topics for this episode for the past couple weeks as well. But lately, my spirituality has been at the forefront. My interest in the unknown has been... It's weird because it just kind of pops up sometimes, and I just can't get enough of information and knowledge. I want to know more about the unknown. But the key lately has been, ironically, that I've learned the older I get, the more I realize the less I know, or I will know. And the only things I do know are what I've experienced through my own personal experiences. I'm learning to look at the world through less certainties, having to understand things, and just kind of letting life happen more without trying to absolutely understand it. It doesn't mean that my interest in the unknown and all of that, I'm not trying to, how do I want to say this? I still have interest in trying to understand, but I'm okay with not knowing for sure or having certainties. I'm just okay with it. It's actually just fun in a way because I am expanding my experience through trying or looking at life through different perspectives, understanding as much as I possibly can without making it law. With that, I thought this is a perfect topic for this episode because my spirituality, and when I use the term spirituality, I'm referring to the definition, the quality of being concerned with the human spirit. My spirituality, I've been a spiritual person my entire life. I've always been interested in the unknown and trying to understand God, what happens when we die primarily. I've always been very intrigued by death my entire life. I've always had a curiosity of the unknown, death, topic that no one truly knows for certain what happens when we die. And spirituality, for me, my spirituality, it gave me a belief system. That belief system has been very important to my grieving, how I grieve. So, having said all that, this episode is going to be based around the benefits of having beliefs when it comes to your grieving. For me, my beliefs are my foundation. They have helped me through loss, grief, and even on a minor scale, like just rough patches I've had throughout my life. Just moments that kind of come up where you're kind of stuck in a rut. They've also brought me happiness. A good example of them helping is both of my parents' deaths. My dad, his death, if you've listened to the episodes before, my dad's death was a slow process. He had got sick, and over years, progressively got worse. And towards the end, the last, 3-4 months of his life, it progressed rapidly. And it was very difficult, as you can imagine, watching somebody slowly die, and he was resisting it. He wasn't wanting to acknowledge it. And I can't imagine what that's like to go through that process, and I hope that I don't have to. In his situation, though, for me, and I'm only speaking through my experience of my dad's death, not for any of my siblings or anybody else, but just how I handled it. My beliefs gave me a bit of reasoning behind some of what was going on. And even though some of that may not be the truth or the same way that other people see it, it helped me to go through the process. I think that if I was someone who didn't have any spiritual beliefs, and I don't even know if spiritual is the right word, but bigger picture beliefs of what happens after we die or why we're even here in the first place, and not to make an episode out of that, but basically I believe we're here to learn lessons, and when we pass, it's a culmination of all of those experiences we've had in this life that give us spiritual growth as a soul. And I think that my dad was here. There's some clear, there's some things in his life that seem to keep on happening over and over again. Lessons that, from my perspective, were not being learned. He had a lot of resistance to some of these things that were happening to him or because of him. And in turn, it just turned into this same cycle that kept on happening over and over again, which eventually caused him to get sick. And again, I don't believe that this is the complete answer to why he passed, or it's just an understanding that I have of the situation. Also knowing within that I don't know shit. It's really just my way of viewing, my viewpoint of this situation. And in turn, that gave me an understanding and a way to deal with, or I guess justify his death. And this gets tricky because some of you may be like, why do you need to justify? I'm speaking from my personal experience and the way that my mind works. I wanted to try to justify what was happening. And the moment you kind of do that sometimes when it comes to these situations, at least I have, I think that any traumatic experience that we go through, we want to try to have some kind of justification or understanding of why it's happening. And it almost feels like it's happening to us in some way more than it is to others. And again, going back to my beliefs and that I believe we're here to learn lessons, and those lessons are learned through experiences. And this is just another experience, an experience of the process of death, of transitioning into the next life or the afterlife. With my mom, I wasn't able to say goodbye. But I knew through my beliefs, again, I believe that we still exist after we pass. Through that, I knew that at least that she was still around. If I hadn't had that belief system when she passed, I think I would have struggled terribly with the entire situation, more than I already did. I also, in my mom's particular situation, it hurt me a little bit because I kind of relied too much on my beliefs and thinking, oh, it's okay. I'll see her again. I'll be able to still talk to her. And I think through that, it was a way for me to not be in the human experience of grieving. And it kind of came back to bite me in the future. It was something that I ended up having to deal with. I think I still deal with, and I always will deal with, just the absence of her and what that feels like. So in both situations, it's been beneficial to have the belief system, and there's been some negative a little bit, I guess, in hindsight looking back, but overall it's helped me through the processes of the losses. And I also use my beliefs in the grieving just by talking to them, because I still believe they're around me at times. I can feel them, and that is largely important to me. When my grandma passed when I was 12, my mom was Catholic, but we didn't practice. We didn't go to church. The only time I went to church was for funerals and weddings, and so I knew God through her eyes, and it literally all changed. I began to question religion, God, all of it, and that would end up being the beginning of a path to atheism that would eventually turn into my spiritual beliefs that I have now. So in those years when I was not believing in a God, I had broke down all of my Christian beliefs, a lot of not understanding the rules and how harsh God was as a figure in the Christian religion, to later on finding God to be more of one. We all are within God, this idea of the universe. And more in depth, I guess, or more important is the idea that I have of reincarnation and living lives over and over again with a soul group. So when I developed that belief system, it gave a little more pause to all of the fear that I had attached with losing them. It didn't feel like it's the absolute end. I will see them again. I will be with them. I will be able to experience them fully as I have in this life. And that brings me some peace. So those years, though, when I didn't have any kind of beliefs, and I was very angry and lost, I really struggled with, I didn't even know how to grieve, I don't think. I just remember getting drunk a lot and numbing all of my pain. Something I still struggle with today is wanting to numb the pain that I have from these experiences. And I've gotten a lot better at that, thanks to my beliefs. And with my history of picking up on things and understanding more of myself and really being introspective, I know as time goes on, it will get easier. I know I will get better at this grieving process. I'll never master it, but it will get better. It won't be as hard. It's difficult to know that I'm going to lose more people as time goes on, but I feel I'm a little more equipped because of my belief system and my experiences, that I can handle the grief a little bit better. And that's, again, one of the purposes of this podcast and me doing this grieving series is to throw out some new perspective for other people that have either gone through what I've gone through or something similar, or maybe those of you who have yet to lose anybody. Gives you a little bit of, I don't know, some cliff notes, I guess, on what to do when the situation comes, presents itself, because it presents itself to all of us. Not to be doom and gloom here, but we all end up losing somebody at some point in time in our life. It's unfortunate, but that's just a part of the process of being a human, I guess. I do want to mention one thing that I've learned lately. I really struggled for quite a while here recently when it comes to my belief system. A lot of bouncing back and forth on what I actually believed. What I realized was that I was letting a lot of outside opinions affect what my beliefs were. When I had an experience with a friend a few weeks back, and I was mentioning how excited I was because I had these synchronicities, and he had said something like, sounds like coincidences to me, and it pissed me off right off the get. I said to him, I honestly didn't ask for your opinion. I was just expressing how I was excited about how things were going in my life. I just happened to bring up my beliefs that supported that to me. I didn't really need an input on you trying to break down what my beliefs are, for whatever reason that is. This made me really start to pay attention to my boundaries when it comes to my beliefs. 7 years ago, I started on this journey that I'm on and probably forever will be on. This journey of self-discovery of my spirituality and what my soul is here to do and to grow, and how my soul needs to grow and what that means to me. And through that, I've formed my belief system. And when I started that, trying to build that belief system and figure out exactly what it was, I had experiences in life, but I didn't have the knowledge yet, which turned into me researching everything. So many things, everything that came my way. At first I dove headfirst into listening to a bunch of weird talk shows. I listened to Coast quite a bit with George Norrie, interviewing all kinds of strange people, seeing what resonated with me, and I found myself almost believing in a lot of it, but then having to balance out those beliefs because some of it just didn't feel right. And at that time, I also didn't have a strong grasp on my intuition. My ego was fully in control at that point. And as time went on, I gained more knowledge. I had more experiences. I got really good at tuning into my intuition. So now my belief system is based on my experiences in life, the knowledge that I've acquired through endless hours of researching, and more importantly, how does it all feel at the end of the day to me? What resonates the most with me? What brings me success? And that's how I formed my belief system. Now, how in those first 5 years, 4 years, whatever, when I was kind of gathering information, anybody else's input was important. And I found myself trying to go back and forth between different ideas and thoughts. I also didn't want to be very different, but it's funny, as a kid, I really wanted to grow up to be something special, something unique. And the older I got, the more I got away from that. And now I realize in order to be that, I have to embrace my own individuality. And so back to my beliefs, I have to understand, and I have understood, that my beliefs are, again, based on my experiences, my knowledge, and my intuition. That is individual to me. Not everyone's going to agree with that. And now that I have those, that's my foundation for how I function in life. It's really something I'm going to share quite a bit on this podcast. But when it comes to one-on-one conversations, I'm not really looking for anybody else's approval or their opinion on what my beliefs are. I am setting up boundaries when it comes to that. I'm going to kind of dial that back and just know within myself that those are my beliefs. And through that, my point is, don't let other people, when it comes to these beliefs that you have, whatever they may be, completely opposite of mine or anybody else around you, but don't let other people force you into changing those beliefs just so that you can feel like you fit in, or because people will talk you into. There's people that are so skeptical that for some reason they don't even have their own beliefs. They just want to shit on everybody else's beliefs. And it sucks. I try to understand why that is. And I know some people like that I don't even think they mean to do it at times. They just don't have any beliefs. So their way to react is to just shit on somebody else's. And really it's unfortunate for that person because they don't have a set of beliefs. And it takes time to develop that and a lot of work. So be proud of what your beliefs are and stand by them. And remember, they're based on your experience, your knowledge, and your intuition. And they will be the foundation to get you through some of the most difficult times in your life. And they will assist in bringing you happiness. And they don't have to match anybody else's. They're yours. So I'll end the podcast here. I, again, appreciate you listening. Please subscribe and follow on whatever platform you listen to the podcast. Please leave comments and interact on Instagram. I'm primarily on Instagram, so please interact with me there. And thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about me and my experiences, follow @AwakenHarvest on Instagram or visit the website awakenharvest.com.